plant leaves their green color. Remember, the chloroplast absorbs all of the energy from the sunlight, but it doesn't use green, so it reflects it back, and that's why you get green leaves when you look outside. The reactants, what plants need to perform photosynthesis, make a lot of sense when you think about it. They need water. And how do they get water? Well, everyone knows that plants suck up water from the roots. If you see a droopy plant, what do? You water it. You see a dying plant, what do? You water it. They need that water to help perform photosynthesis. Carbon dioxide is a gas. That gas is all around us. The air that we breathe is a mixture of nitrogen and oxygen and carbon in a bunch of different compounds, and carbon dioxide is one of those compounds. Water and carbon dioxide taken in from the air, water taken up through the roots, are used to perform photosynthesis. When you look at the pieces like that, it all starts to make a little bit more sense, become clearer. That water and carbon dioxide get rearranged into glucose and oxygen. Glucose is the goal here. This is what the plants want to make, that glucose, C6H12O6. Oxygen is a byproduct. It just gets, it just gets made, but it's not the goal. I'm sorry, I think I'm choking on some granola. Okay, sorry. Glucose is the goal of photosynthesis. Oxygen is a byproduct, so oxygen gets released. That's what they're referring to when they say plants make oxygen. Plants create oxygen as a byproduct of making glucose. They want the glucose, the oxygen just appears. Cellular respiration, the specifics are that it occurs in plants and animals and it occurs in the mitochondria. The reason that both plants and animals perform cellular respiration is because they both have mitochondria. The mitochondria is where energy gets made or released from glucose. The reactants for cellular respiration are glucose and oxygen. What would you know? It's the products of photosynthesis and cellular respiration. They're feeding into each other. What you should see now is plants are pretty much self-sufficient. They perform photosynthesis, and then they use exactly what they made in photosynthesis to perform cellular respiration. Animals, however, require plants to perform photosynthesis so we can get the glucose and we can get the oxygen by eating them or eating something that has eaten them. When you take the reactants, glucose and oxygen, and you introduce them to the mitochondria, the products, what you get out of that is carbon dioxide and water. Those are waste products. We breathe those out. We got rid of the carbon dioxide and the water that we released when we broke down glucose. The important part, what we were after the whole time, was this ATP. So I have a little hand symbol thing that I use to try and model photosynthesis versus cellular respiration. If my fingers are all of this sunlight energy, photosynthesis takes all of that energy and binds it up into glucose. So I put my fists together. This is my glucose molecule. Cellular respiration takes that same glucose molecule, breaks it apart, releasing all of that energy. So now my fingers are free again. There's all of my energy. This is how I model it. I learn by doing things, by practicing things, by modeling things. So I come up with little things like this to model photosynthesis versus cellular respiration. I know it's easy to feel overwhelmed when you look at equations, especially when I say you have to memorize this equation. Good news is, if you know one, you know the other. The equation for photosynthesis and the equation for cellular respiration are just reversed, with one small difference. 6 carbon dioxide and 6 water molecules are both the reactants for photosynthesis and the products for cellular respiration. Glucose, C6H12O6, and 6-oxygen are both the products of photosynthesis and the reactants of cellular respiration. This is where they become like a cycle. Photosynthesis feeds into cellular respiration. Cellular respiration feeds into photosynthesis. When you look at these equations, they're almost exactly the same. The only difference is sunlight in photosynthesis and ATP in cellular respiration. The energy captured by plants in photosynthesis, the energy they get from the sun, is the same energy that is released as ATP in cellular respiration. It just has to be transformed. Sunlight is not a usable form of energy for us. We go out into the sun, maybe we get a tan, maybe we get a sunburn, maybe we get skin cancer. But none of those things provides us with energy. Plants sit out in the sun and they grow. They get energy from it because they have to perform photosynthesis to repackage that energy as glucose. That's just the first step. The second step is cellular respiration. It's how they access that energy. Energy is not accessible in any form other than ATP. Photosynthesis has to happen. Cellular respiration has to follow that for us to gain access to ATP. If these two processes don't work and they don't work together, we die. Sad. Enzymes. The biomolecules that we talked about at the beginning of last unit are going to keep coming up basically forever. Proteins are one of those biomolecules, and enzymes are one type of protein. We've talked about proteins in two ways. Proteins that make channels for molecules to pass through in the cell membrane. Now, proteins that speed up reactions. We call those enzymes. Enzymes work on something called a substrate, and they work like a lock and a key. The enzyme is the lock. The substrate is the key. Enzymes and substrate are specific to each other. You can't unlock your house door with the key to your car. And you can't unlock your car door with the key to your house. You have to have the right key to fit into the lock. The three components you need to know about enzymes and substrates and their reactions. Enzyme is the thing that does the breaking down. It is big, lasts a really long time, doesn't run out. The substrate is what gets broken down. The substrate has to fit into the active site of the enzyme. Active site is in, this is where the magic is happening. This is where the reaction is taking place. The active site is like the keyhole. You have the lock, the key. The keyhole has to match the key. When they match up, then the reaction can occur. The substrate has to bind to the enzyme at the active site, forming the enzyme substrate complex, and then you get the products of the reaction. Because enzymes are Because enzymes are proteins, they can be denatured or damaged. They can change their shape. Sometimes this is bad. When a pH or a temperature change happens that's so extreme, it changes the shape of the enzyme. That enzyme can no longer speed up reactions. The example I used before, you get a really high fever. Proteins, enzymes in your brain start to melt, start to change shape. The processes that you normally do stop taking place. You get more sick. This could even lead to brain damage if the fever is high enough and enough of those proteins get destroyed or denatured. And without enzymes present, chemical reactions take longer periods of time and require more energy. The energy we talk about in chemical reactions is usually heat. If this model is showing you eating a burger without enzymes and eating a burger with enzymes, the top line, the red line, is you bursting into flames and catching on fire so you can break down your food. The blue line is your saliva helping to break down the food for you from the very moment it enters your mouth. I would much rather spend a few seconds chewing my food then burst into flames so I could eat a burger. Enzymes decrease the amount of energy needed to start a reaction, which means they decrease the amount of heat, saving your life. Most of the chemical reactions that occur in your body could not occur without enzymes. They would take too long and they would require too much heat because our body temperature is consistent. Last little trick to recognize enzymes. ASE means you are looking at an enzyme. Glutamase, lactase, protease, amylase. ASE means you are looking at an enzyme. This is a molecule, a protein, that's entire function is to speed up chemical reactions happening inside of your body. Practice questions. This is where you will be required to participate so you can know if you are prepared for this test. Read the functions of the biomolecules in molecule X and molecule Y. Molecule X is for structural support, transport channel. Molecule Y, long-term storage and insulation. Your answer choices. F, molecule X and Y are both protein. G, molecule X is a protein, molecule Y is a lipid. H, molecule X and molecule Y are both lipids. J, molecule X is a lipid and molecule Y is a protein. I know that most of you guys would just guess on this question because it's too confusing for you. To answer this question, break it down. Figure out what molecule X is first. Then worry about molecule Y. If we figure out what molecule X is, we can eliminate two answer choices right off the bat. Molecule X provides structural support and is a transport channel. Our options are proteins or lipids. Does molecule X sound like a protein or a lipid? Providing structural support and transport channels. Use the chat or your mic. What do you guys think? Structural support channel and a transport channel. What is this? Is it a protein or a lipid? Someone's got to answer. More time you take to answer, the less time you have for your test. Protein, right. Yes, thank you, Jason. It's a protein. Molecule X is a protein. So I can eliminate two of my answer choices. I know that H and J are out. I just need to figure out now, is molecule Y a protein or a lipid? It's for long-term storage and insulation. When you take a protein powder, are you trying to insulate your body or are you trying to build muscle? G. G is correct. Molecule Y is a lipid. Animals like bears, hedgehogs, and frogs hibernate during the winter months to conserve energy. Hibernation allows them to survive long periods of time without needing to eat. Their bodies get nutrients and energy during hibernation by burning stored fat. In order for hibernation to work, the animal would need to eat a lot of what biomolecule first? A, carbohydrates, B, lipids, C, nucleic acids, or D, proteins. Your hint is that lipids are fats. So you see that that deer get big and fat for winter when it sleeps, and then it wakes up all skinny. What biomolecule did it need to get super fat for the winter? Carbohydrates, lipids, nucleic acids, or proteins? Long-term energy. Lipids, right. Lipids are fats. Think lipid, like liposuction, getting rid of fat, like the Kardashians do. Lipids are lipofats. Energy processes practice. Analyze the graphic above. What cellular process is occurring in the organelle labeled A? When you see pictures, try and figure out what's going on in them. I see the sun going into or being absorbed by A. What process is using sunlight? Photosynthesis, cellular respiration, chemosynthesis, or protein synthesis? Using sunlight. A, photosynthesis. Photo means light. Photosynthesis uses the light. When you see the sun beaming onto an organelle, even if that organelle doesn't look like something you recognize, you are most likely looking at photosynthesis taking place in the chloroplast. Analyze the graphic above. Which of the following statements accurately names and describes the function of organelle labeled B? When I look at B, okay, that organelle looks familiar in shape, and ATP is coming out of or being made by this organelle. So let me read my answer choices. A mitochondrion produces energy from food to power cellular processes. B, a mitochondrion produces food using radiant energy. C, a chloroplast produces energy from food to power cellular processes. D, a chloroplast produces food using radiant energy. I'm going to get rid of anything that says radiant energy because I'm looking at ATP. That's cellular energy. I'm getting rid of B and I'm getting rid of D. So I have to decide this organelle B, is it a mitochondrion or a chloroplast? Is our answer going to be A or C? A is correct. These strategies of breaking these questions down are something you should be using when you take these tests. Ask yourself, what do I know about this question? Use that to help you. When you break these down, they're much easier than they seem. Students were asked to identify two cellular processes based on their characteristics. Using the descriptions provided in the table, what is the identity of cellular process 1 and cellular process 2? One at a time. What's happening? Cellular process 1 converts light energy into simple sugars, carbon dioxide is used, water is used, and oxygen is produced. I know my equations. Which equation, which process uses light energy? Is it photosynthesis or cellular respiration that uses light energy? Photosynthesis, right, Adrian? So we can get rid of A and C. Process 1 is photosynthesis. We have to decide if process 2 is aerobic or anaerobic cellular respiration. Aero means oxygen, and means not or without. Cellular process says oxygen is used. That means it is aerobic cell respiration or just plain cellular respiration. That's what we call it. There's oxygen, we're just calling it cellular respiration. What occurs inside of a cell while it is performing the process of photosynthesis? A, sugar is broken down to generate adenosine triphosphate molecules that are used for energy. I know that one's out because photosynthesis makes sugar. A is out. B, the negative charge inside of the cell is used to increase the concentration of chemicals inside of the cell. Ms. Den never said anything about that when we talked about photosynthesis. It can't be that. Light reactive chemicals combine carbon dioxide and water to form glucose molecules that are stored as food. Carbon dioxide That's a reactant of photosynthesis. Water is a reactant of photosynthesis. Glucose is a product of photosynthesis. Okay, maybe C. C looks promising. D, the cell membrane forms air bubbles to create a vacuole that is used to separate oxygen from the rest of the air. What was the best choice for that question? C. What is the purpose of both ATP or ATP in both cellular respiration and photosynthesis? A, to break down glucose to release energy. The whole purpose of ATP is to provide energy. Compound synthesized during photosynthesis is, which of those is the equation, the formula for glucose? Is it H2O, C6H12O6, CO2, or O? Right, C6H12O6, it's B. B. Photosynthesis and cellular respiration differ in which of the following ways? A, the energy conversion in cellular respiration takes place in the chloroplast. No, that is wrong. Cellular respiration takes place in the mitochondria. I know A is out. B, the main source of energy in cellular respiration is glucose. Glucose is used in cellular respiration, so maybe we'll hold on to that. C, the main source of chemical energy in cellular respiration is water. Water is made in cellular respiration, so C is out. D, the final product of cellular respiration is electromagnetic radiation. Ms. Den has never said the words electromagnetic radiation. It has to be B. Do you guys see how you can use logic? If you go through these questions slowly and you really read them, you can get to what they're actually asking and cut around all of the extra stuff. What occurs inside of a cell when it is performing the process of respiration? A, sugar is broken down to generate adenosine triphosphate molecules that are used for energy. Cell respiration, sugar is broken down. Okay, maybe, right? Glucose goes into cellular respiration. B, the negative charge inside of the cell is used to increase the concentration of chemicals inside the cell. That makes no sense. No, not B. C, light reactive chemicals combine carbon dioxide and water. Nope, that's photosynthesis. I know that. The cell membrane forms around air bubbles to create vacuole that is used to separate the oxygen from the rest of the air. A, sugar is broken down. Photosynthesis captures energy and turns it into sugar. Cellular respiration takes that sugar, breaks it down, and releases all of the energy. Enzymes, lactase is the chemical that breaks down lactose. What type of biomolecule is lactase? Enzymes are proteins. Every time, enzymes are proteins. Okay, nitty gritty, what did you need to know? Photosynthesis takes place in the chloroplast and the equation. Cellular respiration takes place in the mitochondria and the equation. If the organism has a mitochondria, it does cell respiration. Plants and animals do cell respiration. Carbohydrates give quick energy.